Aloha mai kako. My name is David Lassner, and I serve as the president of the University of Hawaiʻi, leading our 10-campus system and our flagship University of Hawaiʻi at Manoa. We serve these islands, which are the ancestral home of the Kanaka Maoli, or Native Hawaiian people. My own ancestry involves centuries of wandering, but I am now privileged to make my home in lush Waiomau within Palolo Valley, in the Ahupua'a of Waikiki, within the Moku of Kona on the island of Oahu. I am personally grateful to this place and her people, both of which have embraced me for over 4 decades. Over 125 years ago, Queen Liliuokalani yielded the Hawaiian Kingdom and these territories under duress and protest to the United States to avoid the bloodshed of her people. And it was nearly 30 years ago that the U.S. government formally apologized for this act, which it has acknowledged as an illegal overthrow. As the only public institution of higher education in Hawaii, the University of Hawaii is strategically clear in our commitment to become a model Indigenous serving institution, committed to the sustainability of Hawaii's people, islands, language, culture, and knowledge. This strategic imperative is named Hawaii Papaokeao, or the Hawaii Foundation of Enlightened Knowledge. So today I welcome you all, and I offer up an invitation to join us in celebrating the University of Hawaii's ongoing contributions to the advancement of Indigenous Hawaiian knowledge. Mahalo.
Aloha mai kako. I am Mainette Kapiahiokalani Patakinani Benham, Chancellor of the University of Hawaii West Oahu and co-chair of Hawaii Papaokeao, with Chancellor of Maui College, Dr. Louis Hokoana. Hawaii Papaokeao was established in January 2012 and consists of representatives from all 10 campuses. The purpose of this presidentially appointed committee is to set goals and objectives to address the higher education needs of Native Hawaiians through 3 pathways: leadership development, community engagement, and Hawaiian language and cultural parity. Our discussions focused on how our Native Hawaiian students, faculty, and staff, and their families were managing this challenging time. Committee members shared that folks on their campus were feeling isolated, disconnected, and depressed due to the psychosocial, emotional, and economic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we asked, what could Hawaii Papaokeao do? And after some discussion led by Tapori Tangaro, representative from Hawaii Community College, we decided that we wanted to address Indigenous well-being through the nourishment that can be found in the abundant talent and knowledge across our campus communities. Hence, the birth of the inaugural Hawaii Papaokeao series, He Ukana Aloha Kā Kīlauea. E nānea kākou I ka ike kupuna I ho'owili ai mai ki kilo mai. Enjoy and be enriched by the wisdom passed down from our kupuna through so many generations to us today. Aloha.
No tihi lawe ate aloha la hanali oka ke le tamoana la hana holoma mua holoma ho pela hana taupono tai hui tamatahani la hana haeo mai ki la hue ala hana taua he ahe ia I taili taila hana hakinu a kauahi I te taila hana no mea e kaui la malaha lola hana maho mai a o taihi vila hana no kamehameha e 5.
e nā kini maka maka I ane e ho hano hano I ano ke ia pualei he lei kaulana le lani he pualei ko ne ia moku me he pualo ha o paua kalani e alia me e kuho ai tana hele o manuka Ike a kahita lana lana ko leila He mino a kahita makalena lena Leio lalo ike kupu kupu honua Leio luna ike kubina I o ko lalo leo He leo walono ia He leo paka he ake ko olaua ine He mala maita o lalo ikule ana e kipa mai He leo e kokolo ana I te ewe o nā kupuna Ho ewe ia e iwi ho o kahino ka koe Ue a o koe na hoa hana o ka ipu ka hamama E uno noho mai ana I tāne le hua e hea nei e kiwa O ko mako alo kupuna kai oni tana ue I mua O ko mako uhei ia te alalo ko ka opu halau O ko mako I te ewe o ke kaulapi O ke aloha wale no
No leila, kawelino ke aloha me o kou pakahi a pau, aloha nui kākou. My name is Aaron J. Salah. I am a faculty specialist at the University of Hawaiʻi, West Oahu, project director for the Title III Upena Moana Nui Akea grant. I am very, very pleased to participate in this next hour with my esteemed colleagues and friends, and taking this opportunity to share with all of you an incredible resource that a village has come together to offer the world, really. We want to thank President Davis Lassner, Chancellors Benham and Hokoana, Taupouri Tangaro, and Auntie Gail Makane London for this He Ukana Aloha Kā Kīlauea series. I have to say, when we plan it each year, we very much look forward to each of our respective slots, and then the week before comes and we have to pull it all together. And so I'm just really thankful for these panelists that are going to participate today, sharing with you the Eddie Kamai songbook. The theme for this year is Ali'i and the leadership of Ali'i. And we're going to beg the indulgence of the audience and Hawaii Papo Keao as we're going to transcend the traditional notions of Ali'i for the sake of this presentation and really come to the notion of Ali'i from a contemporary lens. And in contemporary times, our Ali'i have shown themselves to be kumu, teachers and sources of knowledge, sources of strength, sources of the strength of vulnerability. And in this case, an incredible Hawaiian who took the teachings of his kupuna, his own kumu, and made it a point, his life's work, to share that knowledge with the lehu lehu. And this person, of course, is Eddie Kamai. And so we celebrate Eddie today as a musician and a native Hawaiian, as a leader of groups like the Sons of Hawaii in several iterations over time, and the work that he did as a teacher within that group. And of course, the legacy of Eddie and Myrna Kamai and the Hawaiian Legacy Foundation. And so we're pleased to share with you the story of Eddie Kamai through the music that he shares with us. At this time, I bring to the proverbial stage Chancellor Maynette Benham to talk about her work as a board member of the Hawaiian Legacy Foundation, but also about her personal connection to the Kamais and the work of the University of Hawaiʻi, West Oahu in the production of all of this partnership with Ulu'ulu, the Moving Image Archive, the Hawaiian Legacy Foundation Archive of Documentaries, and the work that Title III and others have come together to produce. And we'd like to ask also Chancellor Benham to talk a little bit about how the songbook idea came about. Don't worry, I'm going to get you the link to the songbook. You'll be able to follow along with us in just a moment. Chancellor Benham?
Mahalo, Aaron, and aloha to everyone out there in Zoom land. Before I get started, I do want to acknowledge the presence of Myrna Kamai. She's with us today, along with the panel, here to enjoy our telling of the story that she is living, and the story that means so much to each and every one of us who are presenting to you today. I have to say that my love affair with Myrna and Kamai began when I first returned from Michigan to Hawaii in 2008. In 2009, Judy Pyle and Wayne Pitluck told me that I needed to come over to their home because they were going to be inviting Eddie and Myrna Kamai, and they wanted me to meet with them. And I need to tell you, Myrna, I was extraordinarily nervous. At first I didn't want to go because in my mind, you all were such legends, such icons, and I was just very, very nervous. But when I came into Wayne and Judy's house and I met the both of you, I could not feel more at home. And so my love affair with the both of you started in 2009, and I committed my time, my effort, my energy, my creativity, and my aloha to both of you to ensure that your dreams would actually come true. So because of our introduction, I was invited to be a part of the Hawaiian Legacy Foundation Board, which consists of a number of directors, all with a variety of different areas of expertise. And I think I was invited for several reasons, Myrna. I think one was because I brought the educational network with me, but also I had a little role in ensuring that Eddie was honored in 2013 with an honorary Doctor of Humane Letters from the UH Manoa. What an opportunity that was for all of us to honor his legacy and the work that he was doing to ensure that the ike from our kupuna, from his kumu, who we will meet today in the presentation, passed along to him so that he can pass along to us. So as a member of the board, I remember I was having a conversation with the board about Eddie's archives and about how protective he was of his archives, and that there was a need for somebody to get into the archives and organize it, an actual archivist. And not Eddie, and who wouldn't let anybody into the archive anyway. And I said, I think I have somebody who is young and enthusiastic, energetic, smart, who might be able to do that. So I immediately got on my cell phone and I texted Kapena Shem. And within moments, Kapena came back to me and he said, yes, he would do it. And he came and he met Myrna. Eddie fell in love with him. Well, he's a Shem, and of course there's Kapena can share his own story, but Eddie is connected to Kapena's family, especially Kapena's grandfather. So Kapena became the archivist and was doing quite a lot of work to organize and work with Eddie to better understand what was in the archive, just a treasure trove of information. Well, as Eddie began to pass to our next world, we worked with Myrna, Kapena and I, to keep tabs on his legacy, on his work, and we had several conversations about, so what's going to happen next? Eddie was told by Mary Kavena Puku'ie Ho'omau Ika Imina Awau, that we needed to persist in the search of knowledge. That's what she passed on to him. And that's what Eddie was passing on to Kapena and I. I guess, Myrna, it was a few days before Eddie passed that Kapena and I visited with you and him. And we were so moved, Kapena and I, that I made that infamous promise that Kapena, and sorry about that, Kapena, but he was part of my promise that we both together would ensure that everything that he had done, we would work hard on for the rest of our lives to ensure that it could pass on for generations to come. And hence the idea of the songbook. And I'm not going to take credit for that, because that was something when I was talking with Aaron one day, he was like, you can do a songbook. So, because he was thinking about doing songbooks of a variety of different things, Aaron. And so that idea did come through fruition, and with Aaron's help and, with the work here at UH West Oahu with Ulu Ulu, bringing all of the digital moving pictures over to Ulu Ulu, bringing documents over to our library, where librarian Kavena Komeji was digitizing them and putting it together. But utilizing our resources here, we've been able to actually build this wonderful resource for everyone. And I have to tell you that, a promise kept is important for all of us. And as a teacher myself, I take what Eddie has written and what Eddie has taught us and what Myrna constantly reminds us of, to ho'omau, to keep passing along the knowledge. So I'm so blessed, and thank you, Myrna, for this opportunity that all of us here today have to be of service and to show our aloha for you and Eddie. Thanks, Aaron.
Mahalo nui, Chancellor. And so without further ado, then let's unveil the songbook. First of all, if you'd like to follow along in the songbook as we go through several of these presentations, you can do so at eddiekamaisongbook.org. It's open to the world to use as an incredible treasure trove of resource around the music of Eddie Kamai, his teachers, and the work of the Hawaiian Legacy Foundation. You can also use that QR code and scan it and follow along in your phone while we're doing this webinar on a laptop, etc. So by all means, please take a moment to share with us in really the splendor that is Mele Hawaii. So when you go to the songbook, this is the homepage of the songbook. Obviously, you see the palaka print that was iconic to Eddie Kamai and the Sons of Hawaii. And the songbook is called the Eddie Kamai Songbook, A Musical Journey. And really, it is a musical journey in the sense that these songs were telling of times, of places, of people, of experiences that Eddie shared with his own kumu over the course of his entire life. And so there are tabs there that go to each of these songs. You can find out more about Eddie Kamai himself. You can find out about the process of the production of the songbook. There are photos galore, and I won't take up too much time discussing that now because we'll get Lili Noi to talk a little bit about it in just a few moments. And so we wanted to take a moment just to share a few mele with you and the story of these mele. And so to do that with Aloha Chant, we bring Kapena Shim to the microphone. Kapena, please, talk about the work that you've done as archivist of Hawaiian Legacy Foundation, and then the work that it took to really pull together the resources that became the Eddie Kamai Songbook.
Aloha, my name is Kapena Shim. I've been the archivist with the Hawaiian Legacy Foundation since 2013. And like Chancellor Benham was saying, it began with the text. She said, "Oh, do you want to work with the Kamai Archive?" And she says, "He was close to your family." And I have to be honest, I didn't know much about Eddie, nor his music. I didn't know much about anything about Eddie. But she said, "Come over, grab his book, grab the 10 documentaries." And I did. And I spent the whole weekend reading his book. And in that book, there's a chapter about my grandfather in there, about his aloha. In the documentaries, all 10 of them I watched. I ended with the last one, Those Who Came Before, which really celebrates Eddie's musical journey. And in that documentary, Auntie Pilahi Paki, who's also part of my family, was in that documentary. And I was really surprised too, because I saw images of the dojo, which is a Zen temple in the back of Kalihi Valley. And it's a place that I would go to when I was a little kid with my dad. And never in my life did I think I'd ever see the dojo on the television screen. So I was just really floored by, oh my gosh, my childhood is right there in front of me. So for me, I felt like I was home in some ways. And then I met with Eddie and Myrna, and I too was nervous, but I also asked my grandfather to be there with me. And Eddie, he would share stories with me about how my grandfather helped his bandmate Feet get out of trouble. And after that, he let me into the archive, and I've been in there every Saturday morning for a long time, except for during the period of COVID, but hope to get back there again. So yeah, so I'm going to talk to you folks about Aloha Chant. I'll share a little bit about the song story, and then we can actually hear some clips, and then I know John will talk about that song as well. So, but before we talk about Aloha Chant, I do want to talk about Pilahi Paki, which is one of Eddie's earliest teachers. So Eddie met Pilahi Paki in 1960 after Kurt Johnson, who was a fan of the Sons of Hawaii and who would visit the Sandbox, which is in Sand Islands industrial area of Honolulu, to hear the Sons play. So in one of these visits, he invited Eddie to meet with his mother's friends, Mary Kavena Pukui and Pilahi Paki, who could help Eddie know more about the songs he was playing. So in this first meeting with Pilahi, she asked Eddie, "So what have you been doing?" And he told her about his music and what he was working on. And she gave him her number and said, "If you need me, and you want to talk story, come call me." And he did, and he would call her up and they would get together and they would talk about songs or ideas for songs, such as the song Aloha Chant. So for that song, Eddie was really drawn to the vision of Pilahi's message that the spirit of Aloha would one day guide a troubled world towards peace. So the two got together. Pilahi wrote the words that expressed her message of Aloha, and Eddie put it to music. And that message of Aloha became well known after Pilahi publicly and unexpectedly shared a message about Aloha in 1970 at this governor's conference at Kennedy Theater, discussing the future of Hawaii in the year 2000. So at that time, Aloha became the subject of conversation, and people were saying, "Oh, maybe we can give every tourist a lei at the airport as a way of doing Aloha." People are saying, "Oh, maybe we need to add Aloha more in advertisements, tourism advertisements." And then some people started to mock Aloha and even question whether or not it existed. So then a tall, dignified Hawaiian woman stood up and she said, I would like you all to understand that Aloha spirit is a coordination of mind and heart. It's within the individual. It brings you down to yourself. You must think and emote good feelings to others." And then she offered a translation of Aloha, and we'll actually hear that soon. So with that, I'll turn it over to John, who can share more about the music aspects of Aloha Chant.
Aloha.
Welcome, John. Aloha.
So I feel very honored to be invited to speak about the Aloha Chant. I think my journey with this songbook goes way back to the 70s. As a child, our church used to go to Koke'e and spend the weekend up there, and I learned a lot from one of our kupuna there, Auntie Hale. She would lead us on I think discussions about aloha and also on very practical things, like when you go into the forest, picking maile for a maile lei for a special someone, you only take what you need. And fast forward to many years later, my wife and I found ourselves on the East Coast with two daughters, and certainly missing home. She was born and raised here, and she had a film festival that she co-directed with a colleague. They were directors of the Hawaii Cultural Foundation, and this film festival, the Pacifica Film Festival, honored Eddie Kamai with a Lifetime Achievement Award in 2006. And so our daughters, ages 5 and 9 at the time, were among the children who were invited up by Eddie to enjoy a song. And this was Aloha Chant. And it was very clear, I think at that time, you know, as certainly as like expats living far away from home and missing home and wanting, you know, being hungry for knowledge of home. This was a very important part of Eddie's work. It was very clear. And, you know, as I come full circle and as invited to be a part of this project as a transcriber, I, along with a team of transcribers, helped create the music sheets for many of the songs in the Pu'olo. This was just a very, I think, very clear that what Eddie was told by his kumu. I think you can hear in the website, you can hear him talk about how his kumu, kupuna paki, Mary Kavena Pukui, and Sam Leah. They all told him, do it for the children, do it now. So this was, I think, in terms of the Aloha Chant, I find it so useful to not only be an educational resource for our children to learn about this very important central concept of aloha, but it's a wonderful, wonderful music collaboration between his kumu, Paki, and himself, Eddie Kamai.
Mahalo, John.
May the spirit of my ancestors, aloha, embrace you always with affection. E is akahai, Hawaii meaning kindness. Express it with a feeling of tenderness. El is lokahi, Hawaii meaning unity. Express it with a feeling for harmony. O is olu olu, Hawaii meaning agreeable. Express it with a feeling of pleasantness. H is Hāhā, Hawaii meaning humility. Express it with a feeling for modesty. And the last A is Ahonui, Hawaii meaning patience. Apply it with perseverance. These are traits of character that express the spirit and the people of a land known throughout the world in these words of wisdom, intelligence, knowledge, and understanding. What the world knows in the word aloha. Aloha.
Pilahi Paki rose, unscheduled, to give her definition of aloha at a 1970 conference to discuss Hawaii's future. Her words electrified leaders and scholars who gathered at the Kennedy Theater at the University of Hawaiʻi. She had been an unassuming homemaker and phone operator until a dying elder, whose great-grandfather had been the last priest at Kapua Noni Heiau in North Kona, singled her out to receive his knowledge. Pilahi was already revered for her spiritual nature and regarded as an important cultural resource when Eddie met her in 1960.
When I first met her, it was at my friend that invited me to dinner at Kurt Johnson. And he introduced me to Pilahi. She said, this is my mother's good friend, Pilahi Paki. Pilahi, we said aloha. And she says, what have you been doing? So I showed her some of my work, and when she looked at it, she said to me, you could ask me any question you want from now till tomorrow morning. Well, at the moment, I didn't want to ask her anything. She said, now you just call me or you come and see me. We could get together one day. There was a conference at the East-West Center. The subject was, what is aloha? Nobody described it like Pilahi Paki. She stood up and told the audience and the people what love is all about. And they all applauded her.
In her voice, Hawaiians recognize something else, the ancient and almost forgotten art of huna, tapping spiritual powers inside the letters themselves.
So I called her, I said, I'd like to know more about that. So we got together and we discussed the idea of doing a song of her thoughts about aloha, what aloha is all about, you know. So I did the music for the aloha chant.
Sometimes no more be said after the kumu talks. Our next piece is Keala Kajip, one of Eddie's most famous and well-known pieces that he set music to. Mary Kavena Pukuia wrote the lyrics for. With the help of Myrna Kamai, we're going to ask Lilinoy Andrews to unmute and talk a little bit about her work on this incredible project and the power of the pu'olo. You see that download pu'olo button there and all the contents therein. Lilinoy had a heavy hand in the production of these resources. Lilinoy, you're on.
Aloha kako. I'm happy to be here. That section on Pilahi Paki was very powerful, beautiful. Mahalo. I got involved in this when Mainette said, hey, you're going to be working on this new project. Here it is. So that was my introduction to it. I was really happy to work on a songbook as I'd helped produce the Lina Machado songbook years before. And I was very excited to meet Myrna because I grew up with the Sons of Hawaii, it seems, playing in the background my whole entire life, that the music is so familiar. My parents, my grandparents, and along the way, working on this songbook, which has 34 different songs in it, there were so many connections, little connections here and there that were kind of amazing. And I also felt Eddie's presence throughout, sometimes more than others. And I definitely felt other people, as if my workspace was kind of crowded a lot of times, which was good because writing all the song stories and working on the lyrics and translations, I needed all the help I could get. It was quite a process to do all that. Kapena, Myrna, and I worked together on all of that. And I think the power of the pu'olo is the fact that this presentation, online presentation, allows especially the audio and video resources to shine. And we can't replicate that in a print version, should we ever do one. And so being able to listen to Eddie sing and being able to look at the lyrics while he sings and look at the translation is a really transportive experience. And I think the juiciest things for me are the educational, the resource materials that are tucked into every song. To see Kavena's original handwriting and Sam Leah's original handwriting, Eddie's notes from his notebooks, it's just incredible. And those are some of the things that powered me along through this process. So the power of the pu'olo is that juxtaposition of all of those things together that we couldn't possibly present any other way.
Mahalo, Lilino. You know, there's a couple of things before we go back to Eddie telling the story of Keala Kajip. There's a couple of things I just want to augment. And the first is that In 1820, when the missionaries first came, their first goal was to obviously missionize. And in order to missionize, they had to design a system of literacy. And so this modern orthography of Olelo Hawaii was designed, and the alphabet was published a couple of years later. As a vehicle toward missionization, literacy in words was an important pillar to that, but also literacy in music followed that very closely. And so the first hymnal, the first hymnal with music notation was published in 1834, just 14 years later, after 14 years after the Bingham's group of missionaries first came. It was titled "Okekumu Leo Mele no Nahimenia Mena Halelu e Ho'olea Akwe Kiakua," a book of melodies for the hymns and alleluias to praise God. And it includes 50 pages at the front matter of how to read music. What is a whole note? What is a half note? What is a treble clef? What is a bass clef? Who should sing at what, at what place? And to spend 50 pages at a time where we question ourselves, where did the ink come from in 1834? Where did the paper come from in 1834? And then to print many, many thousands of these hymnals for dissemination into our lahui is a big deal. And so, there's an importance to how all of this really comes together, because then that leads to this prolific publication of music in Hawaii. Hapahaole songs, Charles E. King books, Criterion comes in and publishes just crazy amounts of Hawaiian music. And what that tells us is that there was an incredible audience for Hawaiian music. Well, we lose our literacy, we also lose our music literacy. And so songbooks start to go back to just lyrics. And in the production of this songbook, it became really, really important for us to assure that music literacy became a part and parcel of the package of resources that we would make available in this powerful pu'olo, as it were. And part of that has to do with assuring that people were singing melodies that came from a particular source, in this case, Eddie Kamai, but also that there were nuances in the way that Eddie would sing a particular verse, or subtleties in the way that he turned the phrase. And we do our best to capture that in the music so that the music itself becomes this sort of kinetic response to the kind of work that Eddie was doing in working with his own kumu. Okay, Kiala Kaji.
This song, are you going to go ahead and play it, or you want me to?
No, go ahead, Lilinoy. Go ahead, please.
This song reflects the time that Mary Kawena Pukui invited Eddie and Myrna to go on a trip with her in her later years to the area she grew up in Ka'u, with her grandmother, Nali'ipo'ai Moku. And Eddie realized he had to take advantage of this. This would be a special opportunity. It was quite a nice invitation, and so he did. And what he really learned on this trip was the connection between Aina and music, Aina and life, Aina and Mary Kawena Pukui's life. And so the song was born of that trip. And I think Eddie explains how that happened in the song.
Kawena sat in the front of the Jeep as we drove down. Started going down to Ka'u, to Waikapuna, is where she was raised by her grandmother. Oh, it was a bumpy ride all the way. And all of a sudden, Kawena would say, stop. So I would stop the Jeep, and she'd turn to the side, and she would look at the area. It's just a small little hill. And she started chanting. And I said, I told myself I wish I had a tape recorder or a camera. And she turned to me and she says, there is one of my childhood friends who lived there. She did that 3 times as we were going down. And we came to an area, a place called Puhiula. And she said, this is where I would come by and sleep when I came down with my donkey, my pet donkey Many, and we would sleep down there in the cave, They had brackish water there, so we were fine. Because we brought fruits and produce from up above to the people down in the village as a little girl. She said, I enjoy those moments. And so she worked with Myrna about an idea. We should do a song about our day, driving on a Jeep, going down, visiting Ka'u. It was something really special for me. Been asked by
Mana I ke ka'aji, he lohi ke ale hele ai ka huli huli. Mana pi nai na hona pia po haku, alo ana I panini me na e koua. Na oe kauana I ke ka'aji, he lohi ke ale hele ai ka huli huli. Mana pi nai na hona pia po haku, alo ana I panini me na e koua. Ko pui vai na pipi holo I ka ie, pela maho hi ki ai kai vai ka puna, a mai lai la pauna me kone ie ie, I ke aku I ke ana o pui una. Koe o a ui na le hu me ke ka aji, au o di ka le na me na maka maka, au a hui ka lae me ka ulana, a ke ia pala he mo vai ka maha o. Hiki mai ka hale o ka maka maka, luana I ka lai o luwai o hindu, aina ka puana me ke aloha, no ka aina ka ua o haa. Hiki mai ka hale o ka maka maka, luana I ka lai o luwai o hindu, aina ka puana me ke aloha, no ka aina ka ua o hao, no ka aina ka ua o hao.
Thank you to the Blalas of Keaukaha. Probably Eddie Kamai's most iconic song is E Ku'u Morning Dew. And here to tell this story is Kapena and Lilinoi together.
All right. So this is the longest song story in the whole songbook. So I'm going to share with you the story of this song and the 3 iterations of this song. So it began at a dinner party, actually, that Eddie and Myrna had with Larry Kimura. Myrna at that time was taking Larry Kimura's introductory Aloha Hawaii class. And as they were sitting, eating dinner in their apartment, Eddie kept hearing this music. So he excused himself and went into the other room and he recorded it. And he came back in and told Myrna and Larry about it, saying that it felt like a love song. And then he asked Larry to write the Hawaiian lyrics to it. And Myrna will share, Lilinoi will share about those Hawaiian lyrics.
I worked with Larry. We worked with Larry on the inspiration for the song. And we went back and forth on email and we talked and talked. And he at one point emailed something that was so rich. He said, Mana was a place familiar to me and my brother in our time, as it was either at the Waikiki ranchlands to the west or at Makahalau and beyond to the east above Mana, that we went with my father and uncles for bird hunting. These lands weren't public, but were just for ranch employees. Once I remembered the fog, the uhiwai came in so thick that the only way we could navigate our way to the Makahalau camp was to hear the constant sound of the distant water pump on top of Pu'upueo. And as we got closer, the sound grew a little louder. We have these wonderful images that he remembers from his childhood and growing up to adulthood of this very special place that a lot of people couldn't access. And he used that inspiration to write what he said sounded like a love song. And so that Mana was really, which is on the Waimea side of Mauna Kea, was really
Beautiful.
the inspiration for the lyrics that he wrote.
That's beautiful. John, you have any thoughts about the music for this?
Well, I think, this, like so many of the songs that Eddie sang, it's just, he's so expressive with I think two things definitely come to mind: timing and his constant inventiveness with melody. He's never performing the same melody twice, the same way. And I think that just, to me, that is, it often makes me think of, of all things, Bing Crosby, this sense of he's or Fred Astaire, this dancing around the beat in a way that is inimitable. I mean, you listen to other people who recorded E Ku'u Morning Dew, and they're different. They're perhaps more correct, correct in quotes. They're on the beat, whereas Eddie's dancing around the beat.
Well, who better to present E Ku'u Morning Dew than Eddie Kamai himself?
E ku'u morning dew, alia mai, malia mai oe, I kau e herne, e kali mai oe, mai ke alaula o lili ko e lila e ho he lawana ine ya papalina e o ka o mana I ka iu
The one and only Eddie Kamai. We have just one more song to share with everyone. This is Hui Waianuhea, worked on with Sam Li'a. I'm going to open the floor to Kapena and Lilinoi to share about this song.
Yeah, so this song is a song that Sam Li'a, Eddie's third kumu, shared with Eddie. It's a song that was composed in 1889 by Walter Kuikahi, who was the leader of the Glee Club of YPO, which was composed of 6 members, and they had a goal to uphold the name of YPO and its history. So this song, although it's not one of Sam Li'a's songs that he composed, it's a song that really was a symbolic reminder for Eddie of that kuleana and legacy of Sam Li'a and his music, and even through his own band, the Sons of Hawaii, of how he can uphold the traditions of old through sharing of the music. So this is a song that Sam shared with Eddie, so he can share with all of us. What's really fascinating about the songbook and what makes it really special is about 44% of the songs are Sam Li'a songs, and many of these songs are songs that were not really publicly available except for the documentary Li'a, which was produced in 1988. So, for the first time, we're making these beautiful songs that talk about place and poetry available, and Lilinoi can jump in and talk about sort of that aspect of the songs.
One of the things that Hawaiian music does so well is it preserves place names and other aspects of aina, the natural world, that might be lost. And in this song alone, we have several place names, all specific to just one little spot, Waipio Valley. And in fact, in researching the song, we found a term that is not in the dictionary. It's not anywhere. The only way I could try and figure out how to translate it was to go back into the old newspapers, where I found a few references to this being probably a gusty wind. Leimakani is the term. And so to find a momi like that is pretty special in a song. So Hawaiian music has preserved so many of the mo'olelo and so much of the ike, kupuna, that may not be available in other places. And this song is such a wonderful reminder of that.
Mahalo, Lilinoi. Kapena, do you want to introduce this next clip?
Yeah, so this clip right here is actually the ending scene of that documentary where Eddie is playing Hui Waianuhea, but it really is a celebratory moment for Sam and his music and that legacy that Eddie sort of took to heart and devoted his whole life to sharing that music. So here you have actually a clip of Sam Li'a singing the song. You have many of the kopuna who Eddie interviewed about Sam Li'a, talking about Sam Li'a. Then you have Eddie singing the song. So we'll jump right into it.
Today we are talking his history. I don't know if he hear at us, or maybe he can see at us. We cannot see him, but his spirit see us.
Ai na kaulana, ika malihi, ika pai ka maominoa. O mililoa ke ali inu, no kuna mehilo na ho'okele.
Sam Li'a was a violin player. When he played violin, old folks shed tears. He played the songs that the old folks knew very well, and he make them cry. The violin cry and the old folks cry. Right now, memories come back to me. My tears falling down. My tears. memory. My memories come back. My baby days.
Akahia alana o mana e nui tarai o vai a moa. Ai nai a mai ana kapuana no ka hui vai an hea au e lahe.
He lived a very wonderful life, but music, you don't touch him with music. No, I don't think so. The violin, I seen him play violin. That man is wicked. He was really gifted. Violin, whatever, piano, organ. Oh, he was really gifted.
Hey, Papa, you picked the right person to teach.
Yeah. Well, Sam picked me, I hope. Yeah. I gotta find the right sauce, you know. I found him. He shared. Now I share. You know.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Super, man.
No leila, he wahi mahalo i auko pakahi I kea akoakoa ana o kākou. Mahalo I keia panela, ko mau esteemed colleagues hoi o Chancellor Benham, Professor Magnuson, archivist and librarian Kapena Shim, researcher and scholar Lilinoy Andrews. And we just want to thank everyone for being with us for this hour. And the Eddie Kamai Songbook is available to the world. All these resources that you saw today are housed within the website. And so by all means, you know, play in the playground. And who better to close this for us than Eddie Kamai himself, talking about his kuleana as a kumu and as ali'i, as contemporary ali'i. Ladies and gentlemen, Eddie Kamai.
Because everything I do is for the children. That's what they told me to do it for. Do it for the children. They will live forever. And do it now. So that's what I'm doing. For Kabena, Pilahi, Samria, because they encouraged me to finish this work that is important for the children of this generation and the generations to come. Do it with aloha. Aloha. So my second verse will be of the aloha chant. What I've said, alamai, e kalahui, laula, a kaulana, o mai, e kalehulehu, ha'aheo, oi Hawaii, ano ai, ke aloha. That is the second verse of Pilahi Paki's aloha chant.
Malila ano ai ke aloha I auko pakahi a pau. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful day. Aloha nui kākou. Aloha. Okay, everybody, go home. Go home. Bye-bye.